the stars tonight, holding on to love bathed in moonlight.
David was a devoted husband to his wife, Emily, and a loving brother to Jake. Their lives intertwined in the fabric of family and friendship, sharing laughter at barbecues and whispers of dreams on starry nights. But beneath the surface of this idyllic life, shadows began to creep in. David started noticing subtle changes: Emily's late nights, her secretive smiles, and the way she looked at Jake with a glimmer that was unsettling. The trust he had built over years began to crack, each revelation echoing like a distant thunderclap in his heart. One fateful evening, as David returned home early from work, he found the front door slightly ajar. A sense of dread washed over him as he stepped inside, the silence palpable. Following the faint sound of laughter, he made his way to the living room, only to find Emily and Jake entwined in an embrace that shattered his world. Time seemed to stand still. The laughter that once filled their home now felt like a cruel mockery. David's heart raced as he stood frozen, the betrayal slicing through him like a knife. "David!" Emily gasped, pulling away from Jake. David's voice trembled with disbelief. "How could you do this to me, Emily?" "With my brother?" Jake stepped forward, hands raised defensively. "David, I didn't mean for it to happen. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness." "A moment of weakness?" David echoed, his voice rising. "You've betrayed me, both of you. What were you thinking?" Emily's eyes filled with tears. "David, I'm so sorry. It just happened. I never meant for it to go this far." David shook his head, his heart heavy with betrayal. "You think sorry is enough? You've shattered everything we built together. How could you?" "I didn't want to hurt you," Jake insisted, looking genuinely remorseful. "You're my brother. I never wanted this to happen." David took a step back, the pain evident on his face. "But it did, Jake. You both crossed a line that can't be uncrossed." A thick silence enveloped the room. The reality of the situation hung heavy in the air. David turned away, unable to face the two people he once trusted the most. "I need to leave," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I can't be here right now." As he packed his bag, Emily pleaded, "David, please don't go like this. We can talk about it. We can figure this out." "Figure it out?" David scoffed, his heart racing. "What's there to figure out? You've made your choices. I need time, away from both of you." Days turned into weeks as David grappled with his shattered heart. He sought refuge in a small cabin by the lake, a place that had once been a sanctuary. The quiet of nature echoed his pain, each ripple on the water reflecting the turmoil within him. One evening, as he sat alone, he heard a familiar voice. It was Sarah, an old friend from high school. "David," she called softly, stepping onto the porch of the cabin. "I heard about everything. I came to check on you." David looked up, surprised but grateful. "Sarah, I didn't expect anyone to come." She sat beside him, concern etched on her face. "How are you holding up?" "I don't know," he admitted, his voice trembling. "Every day feels like a battle. I can't believe Emily and Jake would do this to me." "I can't imagine how painful this must be," she said gently. "You deserve better, David. You deserve honesty and loyalty." As their conversation flowed, David felt a weight begin to lift. "Thanks for being here, Sarah. It's been hard to trust anyone since—" His voice trailed off. "Take your time," she reassured him. "Healing isn't a race. You will find your way." With Sarah's support, David began to rediscover joy in small moments, sunsets, laughter, and the warmth of companionship. Months later, he returned to town, not to confront Emily and Jake, but to reclaim his life. "David!" Emily called out when she saw him in town. She approached cautiously, her heart pounding. "Can we talk?" He met her gaze, the pain still fresh. "What's there to say, Emily? You made your choice." "I know," she said, her voice breaking. "I've been trying to understand what happened. I never wanted to hurt you." David took a deep breath, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. "Understanding doesn't change what you did. You betrayed my trust. You and Jake both. Emily's eyes filled with tears. I know I can't take it back, but I've been so lost without you. I miss you, David. I want to make things right. Make things right? He repeated, incredulity in his tone. How do you think that's possible? You broke our vows and you broke my heart. I can't just pretend it didn't happen. Please, just give me a chance to explain, she pleaded, desperation evident in her voice. I was feeling so isolated and Jake was there. I didn't think it would turn into this. I never meant to hurt you. David shook his head, feeling the sting of her words. It doesn't matter what you meant. The damage is done. I can't just forget. As he turned to leave, Jake appeared, his face pale, guilt evident in his eyes. David, wait, he called out. I need to talk to you too. David stopped but didn't turn around. What could you possibly say that would change anything? Just give me a moment, Jake said, his voice shaky. I messed up. I never wanted to hurt you either. I was weak, and I let it happen. David finally faced his brother, pain and anger swirling within him. You're my brother, Jake. You were supposed to have my back. How could you do this to me? I wish I could take it all back, Jake said, his voice raw with emotion. I've been torturing myself since that day. I can't even look at myself in the mirror. I'm so sorry, David. I don't want your apologies, David replied sharply. You both have to live with this, knowing what you've done. I need time to heal, and I can't do that with you both around. Please, let's not lose each other completely, Emily said, her voice cracking. We can figure this out together. David shook his head slowly. No, Emily, this isn't something we can figure out. You both need to understand that what you did has consequences. I need distance to find my way back to myself. With that, David turned and walked away, the pain of betrayal weighing heavily on his heart. As he left, he could hear Emily's sobs and Jake's quiet pleas for forgiveness echoing behind him. In the months that followed, David focused on healing. He poured his emotions into his art, creating pieces that reflected his journey through pain and grief. Each brushstroke became an expression of his heart, a release of the turmoil that had consumed him. He also spent more time with Sarah, who had become a steady presence in his life. They would take long walks by the lake, sharing stories and laughter, slowly building a friendship that felt genuine and supportive. One evening, as they sat on the porch of the cabin, Sarah turned to David. You've come so far, you know. It's amazing to see you reclaim your joy. David smiled softly, looking out at the water. I'm learning to find happiness again, but it's still a journey. I'm grateful for your support, Sarah. You've helped me more than you know. You deserve to be happy, she said gently. And I believe you'll find love again when you're ready. Maybe, David replied thoughtfully. But right now, I just want to focus on me. I need to heal, to rediscover who I am without the shadows of betrayal. As the seasons changed, David began to feel more like himself. He learned to embrace the beauty around him, the warmth of friendships, and the strength within. The pain of Emily and Jake's betrayal would always be a part of his story, but it no longer defined him. One day, he received a message from Jake asking to meet. David hesitated but ultimately agreed. When they sat down together, David could see the remorse etched on Jake's face. Thanks for seeing me, Jake began, his voice tentative. I've been working on myself. I'm in therapy, trying to understand what led to my choices. David nodded, not quite ready to forgive, but willing to listen. That's good to hear. I hope you find what you're looking for. I know I can't change the past, Jake continued, his eyes filled with sincerity. But I want to be better. I want to make amends, even if it's just by being a better person. David sighed, feeling the weight of the moment. I appreciate that, Jake, but it's going to take time for me to trust you again. Trust doesn't just come back with words, it takes time and actions to rebuild. Jake nodded solemnly. I understand. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn your forgiveness. I miss having you in my life. The sincerity in Jake's eyes stirred something within David, a flicker of hope mixed with caution. I won't lie. I'm still hurt. I've been through a lot because of what happened. It's going to take more than just a few conversations to mend this. I get it, Jake responded, his voice steady. I want to show you that I can be the brother you deserve. I've realized how important family is, and I don't want to lose you. David took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his brother's words. Let's take it one step at a time. I'm not ready to jump back into things, but I'm open to having a conversation. Thank you, Jake said, relief washing over him. I'll be patient. I know I've broken your trust, but I hope we can find our way back to being brothers. As they parted ways, David felt a mix of emotions, hope, caution, and the lingering pain of betrayal. It would take time, but perhaps there was a path forward. Weeks turned into months, and David gradually began to rebuild his relationship with Jake. Their conversations were tentative at first, filled with awkward silences and careful navigation of their shared history. Yet, with each meeting, David found himself softening a little, allowing the possibility of reconciliation to take root. One afternoon, while they were having coffee together, Jake looked at David earnestly. I want to thank you for giving me a chance. I know it's not easy for you. David nodded, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly. I'm trying. I just need to keep my boundaries in place. I can't forget what happened, but I'm learning to move forward. Have you talked to Emily at all? Jake asked cautiously. David sighed, the mention of her name stirring old wounds. No, I haven't. I'm not ready for that yet. I need to focus on us first, and on my own healing. Do you think you ever will? Jake probed gently. I don't know, David admitted. Part of me wants to understand why it happened, but another part of me is scared of reopening old wounds. Maybe when you're ready you could talk to her. She's been struggling too, Jake said softly. I think she's genuinely remorseful. David looked up, meeting Jake's gaze. I appreciate your concern for her, but I need to prioritize my own healing. I can't jump into that yet. Jake nodded, respecting David's boundaries. That makes sense. I'll support you in whatever you decide. As time passed, David found solace in his art and friendship with Sarah. He shared more of his thoughts and feelings with her, which helped him process his experiences. One evening, as they walked by the lake, Sarah turned to him with a smile. You've come a long way, David. I'm so proud of you, she said genuinely. Thanks, Sarah. I couldn't have done it without you, he replied, feeling a warmth in his chest. Have you thought about what's next for you? She asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. I think it might be time for me to confront Emily, he said, surprising himself with the revelation. I need closure, for myself. I can't keep running from it. Are you ready for that? Sarah asked, concern etched on her face. I think so. It's time to face the past and see if there's anything left to salvage, he replied, determination shining in his eyes. With Sarah's support, David reached out to Emily. They agreed to meet at a quiet cafe, a neutral ground where they could talk without the weight of their former lives hanging over them. When she arrived, David felt a mix of apprehension and resolve. Emily looked different, more vulnerable and remorseful than he remembered. David, she said softly, her voice trembling, thank you for meeting me. Let's just talk, he replied, taking a deep breath to steady himself. I need to understand what happened. Emily nodded, her eyes filled with tears. I've been waiting for this moment, hoping for a chance to explain myself. I never wanted to hurt you, but I got lost in my own feelings. Lost, David echoed, feeling the sting of her words. You lost sight of our love and commitment. You betrayed my trust with my brother. I know, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. I've spent every day regretting my choices. I thought I could handle it, but it spiraled out of control. I realize now how selfish I was. David felt a pang of sympathy, but quickly reminded himself of the hurt she had caused. You have to understand, Emily. This isn't just about regret. It's about the consequences of your actions. You shattered my world. I know, she said, her voice breaking. I never meant for it to go this far. I was confused and scared, but that doesn't excuse what I did. I can't change the past, but I want to make amends if you'll let me. David studied her face, seeing the genuine remorse in her eyes. What does making amends look like to you? He asked cautiously. I want to take responsibility for my actions. I'm here to listen, to hear how I hurt you, and to understand the impact of what I did. If it means you can eventually find it in your heart to forgive me, then I'll do whatever it takes. She replied earnestly. I don't know if I can forgive you, Emily. It's not something I can just give away, David said, struggling to keep his emotions in check. But I'm willing to hear you out. Emily nodded, taking a deep breath. Thank you. I understand this is hard for you. I've had to face the truth of my actions every day. I lost my best friend and the love of my life. I've felt so empty since that day. Have you and Jake talked? David asked, his voice steady. He needed clarity on their relationship as well. Yes, we've talked. He's been working on himself, trying to understand his own part in this, she admitted. I think he's genuinely remorseful too, but that doesn't excuse his actions either. David's heart raced at the thought of Jake. I'm glad he's trying to change, but I need to focus on me right now. Both of you hurt me deeply. I understand, she said softly. I can't expect you to forgive us easily. I just want you to know how truly sorry I am. I've been doing therapy too, trying to work through my feelings and the mistakes I made. I want to be better, for myself and for others. As they spoke, David felt a mixture of anger and empathy. He wanted to scream at her for the pain she caused, but also recognize the growth she was trying to achieve. It's going to take time, Emily. I don't want to rush into any sort of reconciliation. I need to heal first. Take all the time you need, she replied, her voice sincere. I'll be here when you're ready. I want to support you in any way I can, even if it's just from a distance. David appreciated her willingness to give him space. I need to think about this, he said, looking down at his coffee cup. I've spent so long trying to put the pieces back together that I don't know what I want now. Just know that I care about you, David. I always have, she said softly. As they parted ways, David felt a mixture of relief and uncertainty. He hadn't expected to feel even a hint of empathy for Emily, but hearing her speak openly about her regrets stirred something within him. In the following weeks, David continued to focus on his art and his friendships, especially with Sarah. They spent weekends exploring new places and discussing their dreams and aspirations. He felt safe with her, free to express his feelings without judgment. One evening, as they sat on a grassy hill overlooking the city skyline, Sarah turned to him with a smile. You've grown so much, David. I can see you moving forward, and it's inspiring. Thanks, Sarah. I'm still figuring things out, but I feel more like myself every day, he replied, appreciation flooding through him. Have you thought more about what you want with Emily? She asked gently. I have, David admitted. I think I need to give myself permission to feel angry and hurt. I can't rush that process just because she wants to make amends. Absolutely, Sarah agreed. Your feelings are valid and you deserve to take the time to heal. Just remember that healing doesn't mean you have to forget. It means you're choosing to move forward. David nodded, her words resonating deeply. I think I'm starting to understand that. It's not about erasing the past, but learning to live with it. As the summer faded into fall, David found himself at a crossroads. He knew he had to confront the complicated emotions surrounding Emily and Jake, but he also recognized the importance of prioritizing his own healing journey. One day, while painting in his studio, he felt my choices. I thought I could handle it, but it spiraled out of control. I realize now how selfish I was. David felt a pang of sympathy, but quickly reminded himself of the hurt she had caused. You have to understand, Emily. This isn't just about regret. It's about the consequences of your actions. You shattered my world. I know, she said, her voice breaking. I never meant for it to go this far. I was confused and scared, but that doesn't excuse what I did. I can't change the past, but I want to make amends if you'll let me. David studied her face, seeing the genuine remorse in her eyes. What does making amends look like to you? he asked cautiously. I want to take responsibility for my actions. I'm here to listen, to hear how I hurt you, and to understand the impact of what I did. If it means you can eventually find it in your heart to forgive me, then I'll do whatever it takes, she replied earnestly. I don't know if I can forgive you, Emily. It's not something I can just give away, David said, struggling to keep his emotions in check. But I'm willing to hear you out. Emily nodded, taking a deep breath. Thank you. I understand this is hard for you. I've had to face the truth of my actions every day. I lost my best friend and the love of my life. I've felt so empty since that day. Have you and Jake talked? David asked, his voice steady. He needed clarity on their relationship as well. Yes, we've talked. He's been working on himself, trying to understand his own part in this, she admitted. I think he's genuinely remorseful too, but that doesn't excuse his actions either. David's heart raced at the thought of Jake. I'm glad he's trying to change, but I need to focus on me right now. Both of you hurt me deeply. I understand, she said softly. I can't expect you to forgive us easily. I just want you to know how truly sorry I am. I've been doing therapy too, trying to work through my feelings and the mistakes I made. I want to be better, for myself and for others. As they spoke, David felt a mixture of anger and empathy. He wanted to scream at her for the pain she caused, but also recognize the growth she was trying to achieve. It's going to take time, Emily. I don't want to rush into any sort of reconciliation. I need to heal first. Take all the time you need, she replied, her voice sincere. I'll be here when you're ready. I want to support you in any way I can, even if it's just from a distance. David appreciated her willingness to give him space. I need to think about this, he said, looking down at his coffee cup. I've spent so long trying to put the pieces back together that I don't know what I want now. Just know that I care about you, David. I always have, she said softly. As they parted ways, David felt a mixture of relief and uncertainty. He hadn't expected to feel even a hint of empathy for Emily, but hearing her speak openly about her regrets stirred something within him. In the following weeks, David continued to focus on his art and his friendships, especially with Sarah. They spent weekends exploring new places and discussing their dreams and aspirations. He felt safe with her, free to express his feelings without judgment. One evening, as they sat on a grassy hill overlooking the city skyline, Sarah turned to him with a smile. You've grown so much, David. I can see you moving forward, and it's inspiring. Thanks, Sarah. I'm still figuring things out, but I feel more like myself every day, he replied, appreciation flooding through him. Have you thought more about what you want with Emily? She asked gently. I have, David admitted. I think I need to give myself permission to feel angry and hurt. I can't rush that process just because she wants to make amends. Absolutely, Sarah agreed. Your feelings are valid and you deserve to take the time to heal. Just remember that healing doesn't mean you have to forget. It means you're choosing to move forward. David nodded, her words resonating deeply. I think I'm starting to understand that. It's not about erasing the past, but learning to live with it. As the summer faded into fall, David found himself at a crossroads. He knew he had to confront the complicated emotions surrounding Emily and Jake, but he also recognized the importance of prioritizing his own healing journey. One day, while painting in his studio, he felt a surge of inspiration. The canvas before him became a reflection of his turmoil, a blend of dark colors symbolizing his pain and brighter hues representing the hope he was slowly cultivating. As he painted, he poured his emotions onto the canvas, each stroke a release of the pent-up feelings he had been grappling with for so long. After finishing the piece, David sat back and admired his work. It was chaotic, yet beautiful, a testament to his journey of healing. In that moment, he realized that art had always been his sanctuary, a place where he could confront his emotions head-on and find solace. With newfound clarity, David decided it was time to reach out to both Emily and Jake again. He wanted to express his feelings honestly and set boundaries that would allow him to heal while navigating their complicated relationships. He arranged to meet Jake first, wanting to address the brotherly bond they had once cherished. They met at their favorite diner, the familiar surroundings stirring up memories of their shared laughter and camaraderie. As they settled into their seats, David took a deep breath, preparing himself for the conversation ahead. "Hey, Jake," he said, "I've been doing a lot of thinking about us." Jake looked up, a mix of hope and apprehension in his eyes. "I'm glad you reached out. I've missed this, man. I've missed you." "I've missed you, too. But we need to talk about what happened," David said, his voice steady but firm. "I want to be honest about how I feel, and I need you to listen." "Of course," Jake replied, his expression serious. "I'm here for whatever you need to say." David took a moment, gathering his thoughts. "I'm still hurt by what you did. I don't think I'll ever forget the betrayal, and that's okay. I'm working on my healing, but I need you to understand that I can't just jump back into being the way we were." Jake nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. "I get it. I know I have to earn your trust back, and I'm willing to do the work. I don't want to pressure you into anything you're not ready for." "I appreciate that," David said, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. "I want to rebuild our relationship, but it's going to take time. I need to be able to express my feelings without feeling like I'm holding back." "Absolutely," Jake replied. "I want to create a space where we can be honest with each other, no matter how tough the conversation gets." After their discussion, David felt lighter. He realized that opening up to Jake was a crucial step in their healing process. It wouldn't be easy, but he was willing to navigate this path together. Next, he arranged to meet Emily again. This time he felt more prepared, armed with the understanding of his own emotions and the boundaries he needed to establish. They chose a quiet park for their meeting, a place that felt safe and neutral. As they sat on a bench surrounded by autumn leaves, David turned to Emily. "Thank you for meeting me again. I wanted to talk about what we discussed last time." "Of course," she said, her voice tinged with nervousness. "I've been thinking a lot about our last conversation, too. I've realized that I need to take my time with everything. I can't rush into forgiveness or pretend that things are okay. I'm still processing how deeply I was hurt," David said, his tone calm yet firm. "I understand, and I want to respect that," Emily replied, her eyes earnest. "I know it's a long road ahead, but I want you to know that I'm here for you, however you need me to be." David appreciated her honesty but wanted to be clear. "I think it's important that we both focus on ourselves right now. I need to heal before I can even think about rebuilding any kind of friendship with you." Emily nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I get that. I'm willing to give you the space you need. I just hope that one day you can find it in your heart to forgive me." David took a deep breath. "I can't promise anything, but I'm open to the possibility. Just know that right now I need to prioritize my own well-being." As they parted ways, David felt a sense of empowerment. He was learning to advocate for himself, to set boundaries that honored his healing journey. In the weeks that followed, David immersed himself in his art. He created a series of paintings that depicted the emotional journey he was on, each piece telling a story of pain, healing, and hope. He even organized a small exhibition at a local gallery, allowing others to see his work and share in his experience. The night of the exhibition, the gallery buzzed with energy as people admired David's paintings. Each piece resonated with the audience, sparking conversations about loss, love, and resilience. David felt a mix of pride and vulnerability as he stood among his work, witnessing the impact his emotions had on others. However, amidst the celebration, a sense of unease lingered within him. Despite the progress he had made, the shadows of his past still loomed large. He caught sight of Emily and Jake across the room, laughing together, and the sight pierced his heart. It was a painful reminder of what he had lost and the betrayal that had shattered his world. As the evening wore on, David felt overwhelmed by a wave of emotions. He excused himself and stepped outside to the cool night air, hoping to regain his composure. He leaned against the brick wall of the gallery, taking deep breaths, but the pain surged within him like a tidal wave. In that moment of vulnerability, he felt the weight of his choices and the irreversible damage done to his relationships. The laughter and chatter inside felt like a distant memory, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing in his heart. Suddenly, his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from Jake, asking if he was okay. David's fingers trembled as he typed a response, but before he could hit send, a siren wailed in the distance, cutting through the night. It reminded him of how fragile life could be, how quickly everything could change. As he stood there, lost in thought, he heard a commotion nearby. He turned to see a group of people gathered around a young woman lying on the ground. Panic surged through him as he approached the scene, his heart racing. It was a tragic accident. A cyclist had collided with her as she crossed the street. David's heart sank as he recognized the woman. It was Sarah. He rushed forward, desperately hoping for a miracle. But as he reached her, he saw the blood pooling around her and the lifelessness in her eyes. The world around him blurred, and he felt as though the ground had been pulled from beneath him. Frantically, he called for help, but deep down, he knew it was too late. The vibrant light of the evening dimmed, and the laughter from the gallery felt like a mocking echo in the back of his mind. He sank to his knees beside her, grief crashing over him like a relentless wave. In that moment, all the progress he had made felt meaningless. The weight of his pain, combined with the loss of someone who had shown him kindness and understanding, became too much to bear. The tragic irony of the night was unbearable. He had been finding his way back to himself, only to have everything he cared about slip away in an instant. As the sirens grew louder, David felt a profound sense of emptiness. The world continued to spin, life moved on, but for him everything had changed. He was left with the haunting realization that healing could be a fleeting illusion, and sometimes tragedy struck when you least expected it, leaving you grappling with grief in the wake of love lost. In the days that followed, the weight of sorrow hung over him, casting a shadow on every corner of his life. He had lost not only Sarah but also a part of himself, his ability to trust, to love, and to find solace in the hope of tomorrow. The vibrant colors of his art turned dull, reflecting the desolation in his heart. David knew he would carry the pain of that night forever, a tragic reminder of how quickly life could change. As he gazed at his unfinished canvases, he understood that the journey to healing was now intertwined with an ache that would never fully fade. The echoes of laughter and the warmth of connections would forever be tinged with loss, leaving him to navigate a world forever altered by tragedy.
Forever you and me, under the stars tonight, holding on to love, bathed in moonlight.
Thank you so much for staying with us until the end. We truly appreciate your support. If you found this content enjoyable and informative, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us create more great content for you. Until next time, take care and see you in the next video. Goodbye.